Welcome into Outkick the Show, Friday edition. I hope all of you are having fantastic Fridays wherever you may be across this great country or across this scary world. We have got a lot to get to. NFL and college football parlay picks. I have got a Rams reaction hot take for you. Jared Goff is a god. More on the Brett Kavanaugh insanity, and my book is dominating. This is Outkick the Show, and I am Clay Travis, and this is my book. I have a copy in my hand. This is crazy. We have been so successful out of the gate with this book that they have had to go back to the printer twice because we have sold all of the copies just about that were printed initially. So, for the VIPs out there, I apologize. I still don't have the books. We're going to get like the first maybe 50 or 100 copies of the book that I have at my house out to people who have bought autographed copies. But I don't have any copies. I am doing a signing on Wednesday at the Barnes & Noble at Vanderbilt on West End. So if you are in Nashville and you want to come get an autographed copy there, they should have enough copies to handle us there. That's going to be Wednesday at 7 o'clock in Nashville, West End, Vanderbilt location, if you know where that is. I also, next week, am going down to the beach, and I will be doing a signing in Rosemary Beach, Florida, and also in Seaside, Florida. Rosemary Beach on Friday, Seaside on Saturday. So if you happen to be there down on 30A, you can come see me on Saturday and Sunday. I'm hanging out down at the beach next weekend. And so hopefully all of that will be good. And we got a lot to get to. All right. Again, I would encourage you to go to Amazon. Right now, they're $16 at Amazon. I can't speak for anybody else, but Amazon has been really great about getting these books and getting them delivered out to people. If you want to go buy a copy, we're still in the top 100. Like every author, whether they admit it or not, I obsessively monitor the book sales live chart on Amazon. Right now, we are somewhere around the 60th best-selling book in America. We've been in the top 100 for 4 straight days, which is unheard of for a sports book. I actually believe this thing right here is going to be the best-selling sports book in America in 2018. Republicans buy sneakers too. Go get your copy. If you've already bought one and you're getting an autographed copy, I apologize. I promise I will eventually get them to you. All right, let's go in. I'm going to give you the NFL parlays off the jump here. Here is my parlay for the for college football. Okay, are you ready? I'm on Kentucky and the under in the South Carolina game. That game's taking place in Lexington. I am on West Virginia at Texas Tech, under in the 70s now. I'm going under. It got all the way up to 77. It's back down to like 73. I think the defenses are better here than people anticipate. I think there will be fewer scores than people will anticipate. And I'm on Syracuse plus 25.5 is the most recent number I have seen on the road against Clemson. Here is my NFL parlay. All right, here's my NFL parlay. I'm on an over in the Bengals against the Falcons. I'm on Dolphins plus 7 versus the Patriots. And I'm on the Browns at the Raiders minus 2.5. All right, everybody's asking about Kavanaugh. Everybody's asking about Kavanaugh. So I'm just going to go straight into Kavanaugh and tell you what I think about this. I wrote about it this morning. I'd encourage you to go read about it in the mailbag today. Here is what I would say. Okay, I'm going to be completely down the middle of the road here. This is all about abortion. Republicans believe that they might have the votes to overturn Roe v. Wade. Democrats fear that Republicans might have that vote. Let me explain why both parties are misplaying this in my idea. Okay, let me explain. First of all, I've already said I would vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. I think every day you prolong this, the more absurd the allegations are going to be. Every single allegation that's going to come out over the weekend, I guarantee you somebody's going to be like, oh, Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself to me and whatever. You know, he ran a gang rape and everything else. This is crazy, right? So there's going to be more stupid allegations that are going to come out every time the allegation is getting less substantial, okay? Here's the problem in general. First of all, the worst thing that Democrats could do is have Kavanaugh not be confirmed. Okay, think about this for a minute. And the problem with most people in media is they go where the ball is as opposed to going where the ball is going to be. The reason why I've had so much success in media and everywhere else is because I don't go where the ball is. Remember when Wayne Gretzky said, they said, how are you such a great hockey player? He said, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where the puck is. Most media is obsessed and focused on where the puck is, right? Where the story is right now, they're right on top of it. They're covering it. Oh, Jeff Flake said this. Oh, Susan Collins said this. Oh, Lisa Murkowski said this. They follow where the story is as opposed to where the story is heading. So let me just kind of tell you where this story is heading, all right? Democrats are going to delay as best they can no matter what. Jesus Christ himself could come down from the heavens and say, I have reviewed every allegation in this story, and Brett Kavanaugh did not actually do anything inappropriate, and Democrats would still say, we need to hear from a higher authority. All right? That's the truth. Jesus Christ could suddenly descend from the heavens. He could say, I am Jesus. I am all-knowing. I have seen everything that has happened since humans were created. And I believe and can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that Brett Kavanaugh did nothing wrong, and Democrats would still say, well, how do we know that you are the highest authority? We need to hear from somebody else. That's what Democrats would do, okay? Here's the problem. I think Republicans actually win the longer this delay goes on. And let me explain why. I think the long play here is for this nomination to either get voted down or not get acted upon by the time the midterms arise. Why do I say that? Because then the Democrats are fighting a battle in the Senate on terrain that does not favor them. Montana, Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, Indiana, Florida. All of these are states that Donald Trump won. And as a result, if the vote comes down in these states to whether or not the Senate should confirm Donald Trump's nominee, Senate candidates in toss-up states who are Republicans are going to nationalize this rate. And everybody is going to show up and vote to ensure that Democrats do not for 2 years refuse to put a Donald Trump Supreme Court nominee onto the court. So the worst thing that can happen to the Democrats is exactly what they're doing right now, which is to drive up all of the interest in the 2018 midterms on terrain that already favors the Republicans. Again, North Dakota, Montana, West Virginia, Tennessee, Texas, Missouri, Florida. That's 7 states that I just named off the front right there that all have a big Republican favorability based on what Donald Trump did in the last election. I'll give you an example of the state where I live, Tennessee. Donald Trump won the state of Tennessee against Hillary Clinton by 26 points. Right now, Phil Bredesen is in a tight race against Marsha Blackburn. The worst thing that he could have happen, Bredesen, is for this Tennessee Senate race to turn into a national referendum on whether or not the Democrats should be able to block Donald Trump's Supreme Court nomination, because then all of the people who voted for Donald Trump are going to come out and support him. And as a result, Marsha Blackburn is going to win. Senate terms are 6 years. Democrats are cutting off their nose to spite their face. They are running as if you've got a national election coming up, as opposed to a bunch of local elections which are on terrain favorable to Republicans. I think the best case scenario that could happen for Republicans, honestly, is for Brett Kavanaugh to get voted down or not voted on at all. Then the Republicans can run on the obstruction of the Senate Democrats. They can bring in more Republican votes, because the Republicans are going to win the Senate. If you're not paying attention to the political landscape, this is a not very intelligent perspective that you have. A lot of attention is being focused on the House of Representatives. They have nothing to do with who gets nominated to the Supreme Court. So as a result, I think the Republicans would pick up 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 Senate seats, and then they would come back and they would have an even more strong majority. And Donald Trump could go in and he could say, you know what, I listened to you guys. I thought that Dr. Ford was incredibly credible, so I decided to nominate a woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Guys, meet Amy Coney Barrett, who is 100% more conservative than Brett Kavanaugh even is. Democrats are fighting a battle that actually harms them in the midterms and makes it more likely, in my opinion, that a more conservative jurist is going to get put on the Supreme Court. On top of that, Republicans are fighting a bad battle too. The battle that Republicans are fighting is to overturn Roe v. Wade, some Republicans. It's the worst thing that could happen to the Republican Party. It's like a dog that's been barking at a car, suddenly catching the bumper of that car and getting dragged down the road. The vast majority of the American public believes that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. If you overturn Roe v. Wade, which is 40-year-old precedent, you throw it back to the states, and then as a result, Democrats are energized to actually go out and end up in a much better position long range to win more elections because over 60% of the American population believes that abortion should be safe, rare, and legal. Here's the problem in general, and this is the challenge. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are allowing their fringes to drive them into the electoral abyss. I will not vote for a Democrat if I believe that I am voting to support what I saw yesterday in that kangaroo court hearing. If somebody is going through a high school yearbook and questioning people about the things that they wrote in their high school yearbook, I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote for anybody involved in that. I am in Tennessee right now. There are 2 statewide competitive elections. I'm going to vote for Karl Dean for governor. He's the Democrat. Why am I going to do that? Because I know Karl Dean. He was one of my law professors at Vanderbilt. I like him. I'm not that focused on the policy differential between him and the Republican governor. I'm going to vote for the Democratic governor because I like him. I put personal relationships over politics. I said this earlier on my radio hit in Nashville. I have a friend who I play Little League Baseball with that is running as a Republican for the Tennessee State House. I went out and spoke at his fundraiser. Do you know why? Because he's my friend. And because I would vote for my friend over anybody related to whatever political name they actually have associated with their party, right? Maybe you disagree. Maybe you put party over friendship. I don't. I would always vote for my friends over the party. But I'm undecided in who I would vote for in the Senate. I like Phil Bredesen. He's a wealthy businessman who is a very moderate Democrat who did a good job as a governor and as the mayor of Nashville. I don't really have that much of a strong opinion of Marsha Blackburn. But if you tell me that I am voting for the Senate and my vote is over whether the Democrats are going to hold for 2 years and refuse to commit to any Supreme Court nominee, which I think sets an awful precedent because the precedent will become very rapidly, you can only put somebody on the Supreme Court if your party is in control of the Senate. Otherwise, there's no point in having a Supreme Court vacancy. I think that's a bad precedent that's being set. I am going to vote for Marsha Blackburn because my position is going to be elections have consequences. Donald Trump won the election whether you like it or not, and he has the right to put on and fill any Supreme Court vacancy, particularly when, as here, Anthony Kennedy decided to retire specifically for that reason. So that is, I think, a perfectly reasonable decision to make. Sitting for 2 years and refusing to confirm someone is ludicrous. You can be upset that Mitch McConnell waited for that year to play out and think it doesn't make sense, but that makes some sense. It kind of follows the same precedent laid out by Joe Biden, which is that in election years for presidents, you don't typically put a new Supreme Court justice on the court. That's a precedent that was set by the Democrats that the Republicans followed. You can think that it doesn't make sense. That one makes a lot more sense to me than this one. Okay? So, here is the further aspect of this. I believe that both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are driving both of their parties into the abyss. The Republicans, because if they overturn Roe v. Wade, which, by the way, I don't think will happen, I don't think the Republicans will actually overturn Roe v. Wade. I think they'll cite stare decisis. The other thing I would say is we're fighting a rear guard action here in abortion. I don't care what your opinion is on abortion. I just tell you what mine is, that it should be safe, legal, and rare because I want to be straightforward and I don't want to try to hide the ball. I try to be honest with you guys all the time. You can disagree with me, certainly. But I believe that what we are rapidly moving towards is technology which takes away the need for an abortion. The Plan B pill. Excessive and more powerful, not excessive, but more powerful contraception. The idea is that abortion is going to become less and less common. It already is. What does that even mean, rare? It means it doesn't happen anywhere near as often as it used to. It means that if you have unprotected sex and a condom breaks, you can go get Plan B over the counter and take a birth control pill and not have to have a baby. I look at this from a purely functional perspective. I don't have daughters, but I have sons. If I had a 14 or 15-year-old daughter, I do not want the federal government saying that when your daughter becomes pregnant accidentally at 14, she has to have a baby for the rest of her life. I don't agree with that. She has to carry that baby to term. I don't believe that that is a smart decision. You can disagree. I'm telling you exactly where I'm coming from, and I'm telling you that the majority, the radical moderate population, agrees with me that that's a bad idea to overturn that precedent. I'm also telling you, just to get everybody riled up, that the worst thing that can happen to the Democratic Party is for them to vote down Brett Kavanaugh. Because if they vote down Brett Kavanaugh, they're going to lose multiple Senate seats, and a Senate term is for 6 years. Again, states where I feel like this would probably flip the election: North Dakota, West Virginia, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, to the extent it's close, maybe Montana too. If this turns into a national referendum on the question of, should Donald Trump be able to get a Supreme Court justice who's eminently qualified through the United States Senate, and if the Democrats try to complete this Hail Mary to keep it from happening till after the midterms, they are going to lose. Okay? They are going to lose. Some of you are so dumb, you don't even understand what you're arguing. Somebody just said, oh, this guy's going to win in Florida. He's running for governor. That's not the Senate. The governor has nothing to do with who gets appointed to the Supreme Court. The governor can make a decision. If a senator leaves his office or dies, then the governor gets to decide who replaces him in the Senate for a short period of time. But I just had to block that guy because it makes no sense. None of that makes any sense at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with the case here. I don't know who's going to be the governor of Florida. I got a second home in Florida. I don't particularly care. It doesn't really influence me that much. I care about the Senate because senators have a voice in national politics. So that person is gone. If you are dumb and I happen to look over and you are so dumb that I think to myself, my God, do you have any conception of what you're actually arguing? That person is gone. Okay? My issue with sending abortion to the states is I don't agree in general with the idea that we should have all these different laws. I don't think it makes sense that if I had a 14-year-old daughter that I can drive to one state and she can have an abortion and I can't go to another state where I live and have her have an abortion. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think, and by the way, I feel this way about everything. I think that if you have a setup in general, okay, I think if, like assisted suicide is the only other thing I can think of. I don't believe that medical treatment should be legal in some states and not legal in other states. Does that make sense? Like, I think I'm okay with assisted suicide. I'm okay with someone deciding, you know what, I have Lou Gehrig's disease. I'm going to die. I would like to have a big party. I would like for everybody to come be able to say goodbye to me. And then I would like to take a drug cocktail that is going to go ahead and kill me. I think doctors should be able to make that decision. I think that families should be able to make that decision. Much like a lot of people have a do not resuscitate in their living wills. I think if I had Lou Gehrig's disease and I was slowly frittering away, or if I had something really serious in my ability to take care of myself, I would like to make a decision. I want everybody to come by, see me, say goodbye, and then I can take a drug cocktail, and that's how my life ends. I think everybody should have that right to make that decision. If you got a doctor who tells you you are, dying of cancer, you are within a couple of months of dying, and the last couple of months of your life are going to be excruciatingly painful, I think that should happen. Right now, the only thing I can think of where we have a law that's different based on medical treatment is assisted suicide. And so I think that you should have a federal right, this is my personal opinion, to the same kind of medical treatment regardless of which state you happen to live in. To me, that's equal protection under the law. You should have a right to the same medical treatment in Tennessee, where I live, as someone does who lives in New York or someone who lives in Florida. I don't think we need to start setting up different medical laws where people are driving across the border like some people go to Mexico now to try and take advantage of the different treatments that are available out there, if that makes any sense. So I do think we need a national law when it comes to something like abortion. I think the other thing is fighting over this is a rearguard action because the technology of what is required when it comes to reproductive health and contraception is becoming ahead of where the law is. Abortions are becoming rare because people are smart enough to go out and realize, oh, I had unprotected sex, I'm going to go take Plan B. Oh, I had unprotected sex, I need to make sure that I did not get pregnant, as opposed to waiting 3 or 4 months and then realizing that you have become pregnant. I'm also, by the way, in favor of legalizing marijuana. I said it on this show. I tried to advocate for it in Tennessee for medicinal purposes. I think that's the right move. So again, I don't expect you to agree with every single decision that I'm laying out, but what I'm telling you right now is look to where the ball is going, not to where the ball is. This is a disaster for Democrats. A lot of people in the media are going to talk about, oh, a huge win for the Democrats that this thing may get delayed. The other thing is this FBI report is a red herring. It means absolutely nothing. The FBI report is just going to come back and tell us the same thing that they already saw in testimony, which is this person said X, this person said Y, and then the senators are still just going to have to sit down and make a decision. The FBI report is a total stall tactic. There's nothing that the FBI is going to uncover that the senators couldn't ask in that hearing yesterday. If you don't believe Brett Kavanaugh should be appointed, there's nothing you're going to read in the FBI report that's going to change your mind. As Joe Biden himself said, the FBI doesn't make decisions. I think people have like this law and order idea, like the FBI is going to come in and say, like, he did it, he didn't do it. No, the FBI is going to give the exact same statement that Brett Kavanaugh already gave. They're going to give the exact same statement that Dr. Ford already gave. The witnesses in this case are going to give the exact same statements that they already gave, because they've already made those statements under penalty of perjury and felony. So if they change their story now, they have perjured themselves. And then the FBI is going to write up a report that says already what the Senate Investigative Committee, the Judiciary Committee, has found. And everybody's going to have to make a decision. So arguably, as I said yesterday, the Senate Judiciary Committee's decision to actually have all those people there to testify and be able to ask any question of them that you want was actually much more effective and efficient than actually having the FBI conduct an investigation. The FBI is not going to find anything that has not already been found. This is not a complicated case. There's a girl who said something happened. There's a guy who denied that something happened. And all 3 witnesses that she has named have all said this didn't happen. So you know what's going to happen? And they've all said that under penalty of felony under oath, effectively. So do you know what's going to happen? The 4 people who told one story are going to tell the same story. And the one person who told her story is going to tell the same story too. And then the FBI is going to go out. They're going to conduct this investigation and they're going to write it up. How do I know this? Because I used to conduct investigations in sexual harassment cases. When I was a practicing attorney, I used to represent companies internally. And when there were sexual harassment claims made, I would go out and investigate them. And do you know what I did? I listened to both parties. I wrote down what they said. And then I handed it in internally to the company so they could make a decision based on what I had uncovered. I literally did these investigations in he said, she said cases. And I know how hard they are. And you know what happened? I would turn in my report, and then somebody would have to read it and decide what they think the appropriate action is, which is the exact same thing that the Senate's going to do. So this idea that somehow the FBI is going to swoop in and create certainty out of an uncertain situation is completely foreign and not true. Again, what we have here right here is a she said. That's Dr. Ford. And then we have a he said, she said, all saying it's not true. The exact same story. 4 people agree on Judge Kavanaugh's side, and 1 person says the opposite. You people arguing for an FBI report, I hate to say it, you're literally so dumb you don't even understand what you're arguing for. You are arguing for less information than just existed yesterday in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Because I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. Kavanaugh is just going to give the FBI his entire record of testimony and say, here is my story. Here is my story. I've already told it. And Dr. Ford is going to be obligated to say as well, here is my story, I've already told it. And all three witnesses are going to say, here is my story, I've already told it. And then the FBI is going to type it up and hand it to the senators and say, here's everybody's stories. Honestly, a Judiciary Committee hearing is much more effective way to actually determine whether somebody is telling the truth than an FBI report. I don't know how dumb you can get. The idea of the FBI, I think, plays into this Matlock concept that the FBI is just going to come out and suddenly uncover, like it's Scooby-Doo, like, oh, look who did the crime. No, the FBI is going to take the statements that people have already made. It's going to type it all up in one report, and it's going to hand it to all the senators. As Joe Biden himself said back in 1991 during the Clarence Thomas hearing, the FBI does not reach conclusions. They take stories, transcribe them, and then hand them to the senators to make the decision. The senators are effectively a jury who has to advise and consent on whether Brett Kavanaugh or any other nominee is valid and able and successfully can do the job. So it's nonsensical. And instead of what's going to happen, everybody's going to come out and they'll find a bunch more ridiculous allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, and none of them will be true or proven or have any corroborating evidence whatsoever. And then we'll be going through the same charade over and over again. The goal here of the Democrats is not to stop Brett Kavanaugh from getting on the court. It's to stop Donald Trump from being able to put anyone on the court. That's the goal here. It's not complicated. And they're trying to run out the clock so they can potentially get a Hail Mary completion in the midterm elections to suddenly take control of the Senate. The problem in general with that is, again, and I started off the show with this, they are fighting on a terrain where it doesn't favor them. They have to persuade voters who voted for Donald Trump in substantial margins to vote against Donald Trump's Supreme Court nomination. What this does is nationalize what should have been, in an ideal situation, a bunch of regional elections, and it nationalizes them on ground that favors the Republicans. Again, states that Donald Trump won are likely to support Donald Trump if he goes on the road this fall and says, I desperately need this senator in your state to ensure that I can get the right Supreme Court nominee on the court. This is a gift to Donald Trump, especially if Kavanaugh gets shut down, because then Trump can come back and totally one-up them from a political sense and put a more conservative judge forth as his nominee, and that person will be confirmed. I'm telling you, this is going to be a disaster. This is going to be a disaster for the Democrats. I don't know why they don't see it. I don't know whether they can't foresee where the ball is going. Like I said earlier, they are in really bad shape. They're going to be screwed this fall. Again, Tennessee going to the toss-up to the Republican, even though the Democrats have a good candidate. Missouri, Republican. Florida, Republican. Texas, Republican. North Dakota, Republican. Indiana, Republican. West Virginia, Republican. Maybe Montana, Republican. Arizona's a toss-up. Probably going to go Republican because everybody's going to be so mad at Jeff Flake. So, again, I am telling you right now that what you shouldn't be doing is looking at all the local news and all the media coverage that's going on right now. You should be looking at where things are moving. And I'm telling you right now, everything and where it's going to go. All right. Some of you are so dumb that I'm going to have to block you. Like, all right, I am going to block this guy because you're too dumb. If you use the phrase alt-right, and if I see you using the phrase alt-right, I'm going to block you because you're too dumb. That's the truth. I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. Go buy my book. I love all of you. This book is dominating. It's going to be the best-selling book in the world of sports this year. May well be on the New York Times list. I love all of you. Republicans Buy Sneakers Too is what it's called. That's Donald Trump dunking on Colin Kaepernick. Grab it. I hope you guys enjoy it. My name is Clay Travis, and this has been Outkick the Show. If you want to be smarter, share the show with your friends, and make sure that you take advantage of all the shows that I do. I'll be on television here in about 30 minutes. This is Outkick the Show, and I am Clay Travis. Thank you for hanging with me, boys and girls. Kisses. By the way, I'll be at Ohio State, Penn State tomorrow, flying up to Penn State for a day. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to watch that game tomorrow night. All the gambling picks are up on Outkick, and I'm about to give you a bunch more in 30 minutes. Love you guys. See ya.